Welcome to Pillars of Progress, a look at the work our government is doing as it implements the development plans for the nation. I'm Anne-Marie Ganes, and in our first story, one day after removing the El Socorro traffic lights and opening up access roads to free up the traffic on the Uriah Butler Highway and the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, government has taken steps to eliminate traffic at the Presal flyover. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar turned the sod to start construction of an interchange at the Presal flyover today. Sherilyn Lewis was there and has the details.
The Presal flyover is the main access from the Solomon Hochai Highway to Presal Couva and the busy Point Lisas industrial estate. Thousands of commuters and motorists use the flyover to get to work to and from their residences daily. At rush hour mornings and afternoons, it is a traffic nightmare, sometimes backing up onto the highway. But in 10 months, the long, frustrating wait at this flyover may be no more.
Unlike previous administrations, the partnership government, the People's Partnership, has chosen to promote substance over appearance, quality over vanity, and lasting achievement over the short term, for short-term gain as well as medium-term and in the long term. Of course, here we are, and there is no election in the air, and if I could help it, and God helps us, there will be no election until it is due in 4 years' time. And so there are no elections in front of us, and one thing I feel very comforted about, and that you can feel comforted, is that your government is working assiduously to improve the lives of all throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And so this project is significant because it will upgrade the existing Diamond Interchange. It will provide decreased peak hour traffic. It will improve the turning for heavy vehicles and increase the capacity at the Couva-Presal intersection. This interchange is just another major milestone in the list of deliverables promised by the Ministry of Works and Transport, which has demonstrated that the staff possesses the capacity to work tirelessly and persistently towards the common goal of making our country acknowledge that we can make it if we try. Against this background, I applaud the efforts of the Minister, his entire staff, and I go a little further and do much more than that, because I'm taking great strength and I'm drawing great energy from what you have done. And to you, I bow in humility and register the profound thanks of our government and of our people.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar said her government understood the need for infrastructural development. That is why today they commence works on the interchange.
Today we stand on these promises less than 1 year after being elected into office. There are uncertain times, even challenging times for our country, but your government has refused to accept the old formulae for success. We have chosen to forge a new destiny, one that will be beneficial to all and leave a positive legacy for our posterity by shaping a new future in which we can all be proud. It is one with a determined destiny that will etch our names into the annals of global history, because you have a government that is working not just for you, but with you. As we assemble here on this historic occasion to leave our footprints for our children's children by turning sod for this Couva-Presal interchange, I sit with pride and joy. I am here with you today. And if I may say, I'm advised that this project will take about 10 months. So I'll give them 12. So within 10 to 12 months, this project will be complete, and the landscape of Trinidad and Tobago and here at Presal will be forever changed.
Member of Parliament for Couva South and Minister in the Ministry of Labour, Rudranat Indarasingh, said recent road projects in the area would bring welcome relief to the people who live and work in the area.
Roadworks was launched to the tune of $35 million to improve the transportation network for the constituency of Couva South. Today, we are seeing under the Minister of Works and Transport a program that has been initiated under the leadership of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet in terms of infrastructural development, something that will impact upon the quality of life of every citizen of this country who will utilize this particular interchange.
Works and Transport Minister Jack Warner says he is considering a special route for buses and maxi taxis from Chaguanas to Port of Spain. The minister was speaking at a sod-turning ceremony to commission the widening of the Solomon Hochoy Highway to 3 lanes on both the north and southbound carriageways. Minister Warner says this project will also bring relief to traffic pileups at the Endeavour and Monroe Road flyovers.
The fact is no secret that you are, in many ways, you have been the victims of serious traffic jam on a daily basis. And in fact, this morning I got all kinds of calls and kudos for the way the commuters were able to move very quickly on the Churchill Roosevelt Highway. But as I was coming here, I saw the traffic jam almost massive at the market. I said to myself, as soon as you solve one problem, another one emerges. So therefore it means, Mr. Philip, that something has to be done with the traffic light at the market. I don't have the answer this morning, but we cannot shift the problem from El Socorro to by the market. It is a problem that is crying out for solution. Even here this morning, I come here this morning and I'm seeing the traffic here is crawling. And it wasn't so some weeks and months ago. And it means, therefore, that the temporary solution which we had put here, in some ways possibly has outlived or is outliving its usefulness. And we have to, and that is why yesterday we had a meeting at the Ministry of Works and Transport to look at a permanent solution for this interchange as well as the Monroe Road interchange. And we have come up with 2 solutions. And we have formed a committee, and we have asked the committee to sit down with the mayor of Chaguanas and to make sure that he goes through everything before we start work on these 2 interchanges. But work shall begin on these 2 interchanges very shortly so as to bring a permanent solution to the problem of the traffic you are facing. All over you turn, the problem is the same: traffic, traffic, traffic. Either we are a very wealthy country or nothing has been done or had been done in these areas over the past years so as to alleviate this problem of traffic. I believe the latter has been the case because the more and more I turn, I see neglect in many of the areas, particularly in areas which are south of the Caroni Bridge. And that is why I've taken a deliberate policy so as to tackle these areas, roads and bridges and drains. Yesterday, for example, we began to put the cable barriers in Claxton Bay, and hopefully those barriers will help to prevent cars from leaving one side to go on the other, taking people's lives, so to speak. But as the PS told me last night, and last night the PS and I and several of the communication staff were at the highway until about 11 p.m. with Pure and their workers. We were there up to then. Thank you, good lady. Looking at what is being done and the kind of revolutionary work that has been done on the road. And we are talking about the fact that the Claxton Bay barriers have started. The surveillance bays, you see, all along the highway, where the police will now use, so the police could apprehend criminals quite easily by going either left or right quite quickly. They are now being constructed. And we were talking last night about these cable barriers, and the PS said quite rightly that you could put cable barriers, yes, but at the end of the day, what you need really is discipline in our drivers. Discipline in our drivers so as to prevent the kind of carnage that's taking place on the roads. You build roads, and as soon as you build roads, then people ask you to build humps because people are speeding. Whether it's Plock Road, whether it's Tulsa Trace, whether it's Gopi Trace, whether it's Raju Trace, you name it. As you build roads, they believe that is a cause for speed, with total disregard for the use of the road by other persons. And in the same case, therefore, we are building this third lane here, and thanks to Yunasami, I see you here in the audience. We are building the third lane here, and when this lane is completed, we're thinking very seriously, I'm thinking very seriously, of having a dedicated lane now for buses only, buses and maxi taxis. So you have 3 lanes, all into Port of Spain. In fact, the last leg in the power spin, you have 4 lanes. And all this is being done so as to make your life better, so as to make you get to power spin more quickly.
Minister Warner lamented that while new roads are being built or refurbished, there is a challenge to instill discipline in drivers. YTEP students in Tobago now have additional computer support with the opening of a new mobile computer unit. The lab is a product of collaboration between the Ministry of Science, Technology and Tertiary Education and the United States Embassy. The unit was launched by Minister of Science, Technology and Tertiary Education Fazal Karim and Minister of Tobago Development Vernella Elaine Toppin, along with U.S. Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago Beatrice Welters. Sherilyn Lewis tells you more.
Tertiary Education Minister Fazal Karim says he will ensure that young persons are equipped to embrace the technological change taking place in the world. Minister Karim said with only 3 computer mobile units available in the country, it cannot suffice.
Number 1, the assembling and commissioning of a mobile computer training unit, which will be used in our sister isle of Tobago. Secondly, the procurement and installation of, very importantly, numeracy and literacy software that will be installed in all of YTEP's mobile computer training units. And thirdly, the operation and maintenance of the mobile computer training unit. There is no doubt whatsoever in our minds that our world is moving towards the digital economy. And the objective of providing computer training is to ensure that young persons of Trinidad and Tobago are adequately equipped to embrace the rapid technological change taking place, the high cost of, in some cases, perceived internet access, but modest internet speed, and in some cases where you have remote or underserved communities, literally no access to computers or internet for those who can afford even their PCs at home. YTEP, as you are aware, and you would have heard from the chairman, has been involved in computer training, not only in terms of through the provision of the mobile services, but also in terms of the center-based programs that are conducted. In fact, the various programs that are conducted through YTEP include the center-based programs, many of which are utilizing our schools on evenings, our secondary schools, and their workshops. We also have the full-time centers that operate throughout the day. And we also have the community-based programs, which are run in communities, even sometimes in the day or on evenings. And while we have 3 mobile computer units, these are not sufficient in our view.
This will be the first mobile computer unit for Tobago.
Not only will the bus be available to move from location to location in Tobago, but in the context of what we want to do and what has been done recently with the launch of the first Workforce Assessment Center, but that this bus will also be an opportunity for those who have skills in ICT and computers to present themselves to the bus, to the mobile unit, to be assessed and certified at the various levels of ICT.
The U.S. Ambassador to TNT, Beatrice Welters, said her embassy is committed to working with this country for the benefit of young people.
To sign an agreement between the United States government and YTEP that will allow us to collaborate on the launch of a new mobile training lab for Tobago. This project is a great example of the commitment and cooperation of the United States and Trinidad and Tobago through the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, CBSI. For those of you who don't know CBSI is a shared regional partnership between the nations of the Caribbean and the United States. The goal of CBSI is to enhance citizen security and cooperation in the Caribbean region. A critical component of this initiative is the development and education of young people, who are, of course, the country's greatest resource. I know that everyone here is committed to reaching out to youth, especially those, for whatever reason, may be at higher risk or slipping through the cracks. I commend you for your dedication and inspiration.
The Tobago Development Affairs Minister says, as an educator herself, this initiative is very close to her heart.
A revolution in education in this country, together with Minister Tim Gopi Singh, we will see things that we have never seen before, I am very sure. I am myself an educator, having taught and lectured for the past 39 years, from preschool to university. So what they're doing, that they are wrapping around the whole of education in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say thank you to the U.S. Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, Ms. Barbara Welters. Thank you very much for bringing U.S. aid to Tobago.
Charlene Lewis, Government Information Services.
Minister of Public Administration Rudrawati Nan Ramgoolam says her ministry has accomplished a lot over the past year in the area of digital development in Trinidad and Tobago. Addressing yesterday's launch of a workshop on information and communications technology at the Hilton Trinidad and Conference Center, the minister said one major achievement was the passage of the Electronic Transactions Bill by the Parliament. Minister Ramgoolam says the regulations that will give teeth to the legislation will soon be presented to the public.
Outstanding highlights include 1, the introduction of the eConnect and Learn program that facilitates ICT-enabled education in secondary schools through the provision of laptops for Forms 1 students. And this government believes in the top-down, bottom-up team approach to engaging any issues that we want to be institutionalized in the country. So the government starts with its policy and legislation, and bottom up, we begin to sensitize, educate the young so that they can learn the technology and use them as we move along. The second area that we should be proud about is that the passing of the e-transaction bill in the lower and upper house of Parliament. So the electronic transaction bill has been passed in the Parliament, and now we are moving very, very swiftly to identify and formulate all the regulations and ensure that this piece of legislation could be adopted and used as soon as possible. And the third area, the development of TT BIDS Link, a single electronic window known as SEW, that will allow businesses to submit trade information at a single entry point in order to fulfill all import, export, and transit-related regulatory requirements.
Minister Ramgoolam says the international community has taken note of the strides in Trinidad and Tobago's digital development, and this is reflected in our performance in the global ratings.
Evidence of this can be found in the fact that Trinidad and Tobago has attained a higher ranking in both the 2010-2011 Global Competitive Report and the 2010-2011 Global Information Technology Report collated by the World Economic Forum. My friends, I'm elated to be able to say that in this year, this country has jumped forward 16 spots to 63rd place in the Global Information Technology Report. I know many are saying, well, you jumped 16 places higher, but you moved just 1 point up. The important thing is that we need to look at the positive.
The government gets a thumbs up for the work it is doing in the area of information and communication technology. The commendations come from Microsoft officials and a visiting government minister from Dominica. The Microsoft representatives and Dominica's Minister of Information and Telecommunication are part of an ICT workshop currently taking place at the Trinidad Hilton. The event is targeted at government decision makers from the English-speaking Caribbean. Microsoft gets together with governments of several countries about 5 times a year. And this year, Trinidad and Tobago was the preferred choice.
One point that is important for us is that the government has shown his commitment to go into a government transformation process. And we see that government transformation is a very, very important part of the development of any government when they need to provide better services to their citizens. So this is the key for us, is to have the commitment of the government to do something to improve quality of life of citizens.
He says the response to the workshop so far has been very good. Microsoft will be forwarding its recommendations to the government for consideration. Microsoft's government director for Latin America and the Caribbean, Mr. Flavio Colonge, remembers working in Trinidad and Tobago 2 years ago and compares his experiences then to now.
Discovering that the Trinidad government actually is changing the way ICT is impacting citizens' life. I was not that exposed last time I was here. I even find very simple details that I'm going to tell you. Is the signage on the roads coming from the airport is now bilingual. That was a surprise for me. I pick it up and the first sign I said, oh, something is changing. That is actually impact how governments are thinking, because the community is not only Trinidad and Tobago, it's actually worldwide.
He says embracing change is key.
Different times and times change, and people have to adapt to a change. Some people will never adapt because the change are so drastic that it's okay because they were used to it. But there's a bunch of new people coming that will use that in a normal way. Today, what we talk about this, in a few years we'll talk something different. Maybe who's going to go to a tour in the moon, those kind of things. But it is a process. Embracing the change not only from the citizen standpoint, but also from the public servant standpoint. Because actually change is coming. Like it or not, you have to make it.
One of the workshop participants is Dominica's Minister of Information and Telecommunication, Mr. George Ambrose V.
Certainly what I've learned so far is promising. It's work in progress. I think the technology is here with us. People are becoming more savvy and open to using the technology. And I think this is something good, not only for Trinidad, for my country and for the region as a whole, because that is the way to go. Trinidad and Tobago is on the right track. And it's just further and further to explore the technology and to get it down to the T.
A major study on the norms and values of our society has been completed and handed over to the Ministry of the People and Social Development. The report was conducted by the Anser McCall Psychological Research Center of the University of the West Indies. Minister Glenn Ramadar-Singh praised the efforts of those who compiled the report, saying that the report will be valuable in informing many of his ministry's projects.
The present study examines the degree to which social norms and values, the very pillars of social survival, are still upheld in Trinidad and Tobago. I am certain that we can see the value of this kind of research. We have noticed that each generation defines itself in terms of new norms, new values, and new expectations. Given the extreme changes in behavior, most people, especially the older heads, recognize that there has been a breakdown in values and what has become acceptable over the years. This has bred new habits which seem to have become social norms. Separations, constant risk-taking behavior, moral promiscuity. In the past, these actions were nowhere near as rampant as they are now. I could, and I'm sure all of you could, offer so many more examples of situations which differ greatly from how our society worked in the past. As it is normally said, bring back the old-time days. However, while we acknowledge that much has changed, we needed proper information which was organized in a way that could be used for policymakers, agencies, and parties who may be interested in making a difference in the everyday lives of our citizens. That is where this report comes in. It seeks to bridge the gaps in understanding how different groups work and who are the groups that make up the society, what they place value on, and why is this shift in behavioral pattern emerging in our society. It deciphers our current social reality and in short considers how, what, and why of our changing socio-cultural landscape. At the same time, the report identifies the causes of the breakdowns in the norms and values to which we traditionally adhered and assesses the factors which have brought about these sweeping changes. Yet I wish to emphasize that while the study presents a detailed view of the established behavioral patterns as well as the value systems in our country, it does not offer only a descriptive account, but rather furnishes a prescriptive tool for all relevant agencies, as it affords and offers recommendations for measures to treat with the discernible breakdown in our adherence to social norms and values.
The Works and Transport Minister, Jack Warner, is offering 1 month of his salary for 4 years to ensure that the construction of a cathedral at Las Lomas is completed. Minister Warner was speaking at the saw-turning ceremony for the construction of the cathedral at Sora Trace Coolie Settlement, Las Lomas, over the weekend. Sherilyn Lewis tells you more.
Works and Transport Minister Jack Warner sang high praises for mothers of the Shouter Baptist faith. Minister Warner, also the MP for Chaguanas West, said if it wasn't for their contribution and dedication to their faith, today the religion would not have been alive. Mr. Warner was speaking at Sora Trace Coolie Settlement in Las Lomas.
I believe that it is fortuitous that is today you are turning the sod for this cathedral. It is today you are turning the sod, today Mother's Day. And in a real sense, for me, it is in respect of and the role that women play in this particular faith. If you look at the history of the Shouter Baptists, with all due respect, gentlemen, my friends, you cannot minimize the role which women have played to keep this religion alive. And as such, therefore, by extension, you can't minimize the role which mothers have played. At a time when the religion was supposed to be like the steel band and outcasts, it was in the main the mothers who kept this religion alive.
Among the other things Mr. Warner promised included
that narrow road can't be the road that you will have here when this facility is completed. It can't be. How will 2 cars pass there? How will a bus come in here? And therefore, my commitment to you is to fix your road and make it in such a way that it can take more traffic easily. And that is the pledge I make to you today. Next week, I begin to build the walkover from where your school is supposed to be to the other side of the highway. I can't build the school for you. That is not my remit. But I could build the flyover, and possibly in building the flyover, it may give an impetus for the school to be built more quickly, faster. And that begins next week.
The Works and Transport Minister also had some words of encouragement.
It is no secret what God can do. What He has done for others, He will do for you. And therefore, in that context, I ask you to keep the faith. Sometimes things will be rough, and sometimes you will not be able to understand why. But you have to bear in mind that God has a plan for all of us. And sometimes, you know, what you consider to be a dull moment might really be a bright moment. And you have to understand sometimes that if even the moment seems to be dark, the darkest moment is always before dawn. And it's in this context, therefore, I ask you to struggle, to fight, to keep this dream alive. It will not be easy, but why should it be in any case? Because easy come, easy go.
And that's where we leave it for this edition of Pillars of Progress. Thanks for joining us, and join us again tomorrow as we continue to look at our government at work.